Hey everybody, Jim the Tabletop Engineer here, and in this episode I'm going to show you how I made this piece of scatter terrain that looks like an entryway with collapsed doors. This project started with a basic piece of chipboard. I drew out the shape of sort of a collapsed wall with a doorway in the center. I made a copy of it, so cut out two of these, and that's because I wanted a little extra thickness for the doorway. I cut out the doorway, and when you do this, keep this piece. You'll have two of them, but keep one of them because you'll use them later for the double doors. So after cutting those out, I cut the doorway in half, and then I glued the two copies together with wood glue. I'm a big fan of wood glue. I've been using it a lot lately with chipboard because it dries fast. I also glued the centerpiece down on a piece of chipboard to create the base. Next I went to my Proxxon and I used the door cutout to create a frame about a quarter of an inch around. I trimmed this out. This is going to be the stones that surround the doorway, and you'll want to make two of these. I also used my Proxxon to cut a bunch of bricks. Now, for those of you who are familiar with my videos, you know how I do this. I cut a bunch of pieces of foam in different heights, different lengths and widths and thicknesses. And you can do this with a blade. I use my Proxxon, but I do this to create bricks that are not consistent looking. I really like this look and style. After you cut the bricks, just put them in a container with some rocks and shake it for about 30 seconds to dull them and make them look used. I also took the two doorways and cut little slits to represent the stones that go around the door, and I used a pen to widen that cut. And then I just glued these in place. Glue one on the front, one on the back. After trimming the base, I applied a bunch of tacky glue in various sections, and there's no method to this. Just take the bricks and just start putting them on. You probably will have to cut some custom bricks to fit in small gaps. You'll also need to cut bricks with curves to sort of fit that curved archway. But work in small patches. Don't do the whole thing at once, and just put down the pieces. And because you're using tacky glue, if you don't like the way something looks, you can pull it up. It doesn't dry fast. And just work your way around the door and just make it a mix of shapes, different lengths, different widths and heights and thicknesses, and you'll end up with this wall that just looks very natural. I'm no longer a fan of the old way of cutting lines and then using a pen to create artificial bricks. I actually prefer to make the bricks by hand using this method.
Each month, Bexim's Bazaar RPG and Wargaming magazine provides gamers with articles, props to print and cut out for players, mini adventures, new monsters, and much more. Look in the description below for details on how to get a few free issues so you can see what you're missing.
After the glue dried, I just trimmed some of the overhanging bricks off to give that final shape. I took the doors and I put some tacky glue on them, and then I took small strips of chipboard and laid them vertically on the door to create the beams of the door. And I also cut two small, shorter pieces that run horizontal on each door, so 4 small pieces in all. And while the glue was drying there, I just went back to my bricks and I just added random pieces. You're going to want to build up a small pile of bricks near the nose of the wall, sort of like where the wall has collapsed. And then you just take extra bricks and you make small piles around the base in random locations. I put a few on top here and there. Just, make it look like bricks have collapsed. I applied more tacky glue to the base and then used a mix of little rocks and sand to give it texture for the base. I trimmed the doors and fit them in place to make sure they looked right, and once I was happy with them, I added these 2 little metal rings for door handles on each side. And then I black bombed the entire base, bricks and sand on the bottom once that glue had dried. I took a mix of gray and white and I just did dry brushing in various stages. First I did gray, as you can see here, and then I added white to really bring out the sharpness of the stone. You could use a mix of colors. You could add browns and other, reds and whatever you like for brick color, but I just went with standard gray and white. I had some of this moss laying around, and I've been wanting to play with this for a while, so I used PVA glue, not tacky glue, and I just squeezed it in various places that I felt like moss might be growing out of the stone. I did this on both sides, just added it until I felt it was enough. Don't overdo it on the moss. And then I trimmed the doors just a little bit and glued them in place. One is actually glued such that it's like still on one hinge, like maybe it got busted open. And then the other one is sort of laying against the wall like somebody just leaned it there. And here you go. Here's the final piece. I really, really like this one. It turned out good, and it's going to look really good on my tabletop.